impossible things in Disney World.
And is it possible to avoid them altogether?
They finally let us out of our cage, and we're here in Disney World.
We're here in Disney World in the Storybook Circus area. My name is Deborah.
I'm Uma.
And we are giving you the best Disney solves to the worst Disney problems.
Now for our first one, I don't think that you'll be super surprised when you find out that a lot of you guys submitted Genie Plus as one of the worst things in Disney World. And sadly, I kind of get it. I understand why that was a big submission from y'all. On the off chance that you don't know what Genie Plus is, essentially it's Disney's Skip the Line service. It's pretty straightforward now after years of using it. A lot of you guys who submitted it said it is the worst because it's a pretty confusing system, or you purchased it a little too late in the day to really be able to justify the purchase. Now, as you can see, we've hit those summer crowds, so the first thing that you're going to do when you are using Genie Plus is going to be prioritize. When I say prioritize, essentially that just means picking your absolute must-dos well before you ever step foot in Disney World. You want to do everything, of course, but that's not always realistic, especially during those summer crowds. So what I really like to do is pick my top 3 rides that I'm going to use for Genie Plus and start with those on my list, and it's just going to make the day easier, and anything you get after those top 3 rides are really a cherry on top. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to set those alarms. This is always really helpful because when it's time to make that next lightning lane after you make your first at 7 a.m., sometimes I forget and then I look down and I've missed really good opportunities for lightning lanes, but having an alarm helps me not forget and it gives me a better opportunity to get the best lightning lanes possible throughout the entire day. And then finally, it's do your research, practice. Watch AllEars vlogs. I know, shameless plug. Figure out what your priorities are, research it, learn on it, and then you're gonna be ready to go on the day of your Disney World visit. Because if you're learning on the day of your Disney visit, it might be a little bit wonky. But if you can prepare yourself ahead of time, things are gonna go much more smoothly. And also I wanna say, it doesn't take hours and hours and hours of prep. Even just giving yourself a few minutes or one video, you're gonna be a lot better off having studied up even just a little bit than if you go in completely blind. It's really whatever time you want to dedicate to it. If you want to be a master, maybe put in some hours. But if you're cool with just using it casually, give yourself a few minutes and you're off to the races.
Now, what's our first problem? The color yellow. It's just too much. There's far too much of it.
There's far too much yellow. We got the popcorn.
Oh, true. You got the little scaffolding here around the circus.
We got
The ducks.
the ducks. Oh, don't even get me started on the ducks.
And how do you solve that problem?
Well, Uma, what you're gonna do is you take every yellow in the park and you just add a touch of green to it, making it a light beige.
I really love the color beige.
What if, welcome to Beige Land. This is our park. Solved. Wear your khaki pants. Let's talk about it. Bad theme park food. Now we get it. Some of the food items here aren't perfect, but we can go over some big warning signs that your food may not be the best and some places that even the harshest critic can enjoy. Let's start with the good, right? Because positivity. Let's lead with love. And the places I'm going to mention here that I think you should go aren't at Magic Kingdom because, fun fact, I actually think Magic Kingdom probably has, out of the 4 parks and the resorts, some of my least favorite food options. So, first thing I'm going to mention is actually at a Magic Kingdom resort, and it's Steakhouse 71. Over at Steakhouse 71, you can grab a huge array of burgers, steaks. It's definitely your all-American, elevated all-American eating establishment. Anytime I go there, I've never really had anything that I didn't truly enjoy. I even recommend going to the lounge. You don't even have to make a reservation. You can go to the lounge, which is a walk-up lounge. You can order a drink in the bar and grab stack burger, onion rings. You gotta get the stack burger. It's one of my favorite burgers on property. And here's something for the more adventurous eaters. Over at Hollywood Studios, there's a quick service location called Docking Bay 7. Now it is themed to Star Wars, so you're gonna eat a lot of food that's otherworldly, galactic food. But all the flavors, they should all be pretty familiar. For example, my favorite thing to get is the hot chicken tip yip over at Docking Bay 7. It's the chicken is moist, it's juicy, it's got this really nice heat to it, because oftentimes in Disney World, if you like spicy things, You'll see spice on the menu, but it's going to be kind of a dulled spice because they're not trying to overwhelm. But this actually has quite a kick to it. I really enjoyed it, and it comes with this great rice and corn. It provides a really nice balance to the hot chicken tibia. So I definitely recommend, for the more adventurous eaters, Docking Bay 7. Now the two places I'm going to tell you to avoid are actually here at the Magic Kingdom. No shade to the Magic Kingdom. We've just experienced both of these things, and I think we can do better. Number one is Pinocchio's Village House. It is pretty commonly known that, unfortunately, the food there is just not good. Whether it just be too soggy, a little bit undercooked, just bland. We even did a full challenge up on the channel called Cutthroat Disney, where basically we took the worst foods in Magic Kingdom and tried to find other foods in Magic Kingdom to try and elevate, to create a new dish, to try and make these bad dishes better. On top of the food not being awesome, it is always so crowded. It's hugely crowded just because it's right in the center of Fantasyland, and people see food and they just flock to it, not knowing that they could have a far better option somewhere else in the park. Now the other place that you could probably avoid, if you want to do it once just for the ambiance, totally go for it, but I would say if you're looking for some food options, you can avoid this. It is Be Our Guest. Now don't get me wrong, the theming in Be Our Guest is absolutely gorgeous. It's got 3 really immersive rooms. So it's like you're stepping inside of your favorite animated Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast. It really is. They've got gorgeous music playing. However, you sit down and you get your food and you're extremely underwhelmed, specifically because of how expensive it is. And they call this a character experience because the Beast comes out, he waves at people, and then he leaves. There's no meet and greet. He's not going to come up to your table. He does a quick little bow, and that's it. So for the price that you're paying for Be Our Guest, what you're paying for is the ambiance and the theming. But unfortunately, the food is not worth what they are selling it for, especially with them calling it a character experience. So if you're curious, we have a whole bunch of food reviews up on the channel, everything from our Boma breakfast review to our Tusker House review, Victorian Albert's review. We've got all of the channels. Now, how are we actually solving this issue? Well, first thing you could do is you could check the menus beforehand on your My Disney Experience. All the menus live on the My Disney Experience app, and just type in the restaurant, and that way you can make sure the restaurant actually has what you and your family want on the menu. If it's, if all of a sudden you see a bunch of names that you don't recognize and you know your 4-year-old isn't going to want to eat escargot, then that's when you can shift and go, let's find another option for us. Second thing you can do is not only do we have a bunch of reviews up on the YouTube channel, but you can also head over to AllEars.net, because every restaurant that we have currently on Disney World has been reviewed in some way or another. And if it somehow doesn't have a review, go ahead and leave a review if you've been to that location. But for the most part, we should definitely have a review on AllEars.net. So check it out. And if all of those solves fail, then you can always bring your own food from home. If you are too scared that you're gonna end up spending money on gross food that you're not gonna want to eat, then that's okay. We bring food from home all the time because we're here every day. We have that, which is a huge luxury that we have, but it can get expensive. So you'll see us bringing protein bars, sandwiches, our own bottles of water. Bring your food from home or from the grocery store if you're visiting. That's okay. All right, here's our next worst thing. Birdhouses. Have you seen the amount of birdhouses in Liberty Square? What are they even for? Are they attracting birds for a particular reason?
I like to think yes. Where else are Donald and Daisy gonna live?
Well,
Is it a problem though? Yes.
Are they paying rent here?
I would hate to know the pricing. In this market, woo!
Don't even get me started. You tell me. What's the solve for the birds, for the birdhouses? How do we get rid of the birdhouses?
I think it's time we finally crack down on rent prices.
Drive it up.
Raise them.
Drive it up.
This is what Walt probably would not have wanted.
Get the birds out. This landlord will not be having your cheap today. Birds are cheap.
Oh,
You're welcome.
common fact.
Common fact, birds are cheap.
For our next worst thing in Disney World, I have some breaking news, and this one's gonna hurt. But you remember that dome that controls the weather around Disney World? It's not real. It's fake.
I mean, is anything even real?
And I know, you're shocked as I am, but means terrible weather can really impact Disney World for you. Now I know you're super shocked that it's fake, because if it wasn't, of course they'd have to do something about the hurricanes and the brutal heat in the summertime, which I'm experiencing actively right now. Now, one thing about Florida that we can all agree on is the weather is not always super predictable, but the one thing you can guarantee is it's gonna be hot. As the seasons shift in Disney World, things can kind of change. In the summer, you're gonna find brutal heat and lots of rain on the daily. In the fall, it's still gonna be really hot, but all of a sudden the nights get kind of cold, and also it's hurricane season, which is just kind of hard to deal with. In the winter time, it's gonna be 35 degrees one day and then 80 the next, and that's not an exaggeration, that is literally something we've experienced. Finally, by the springtime, it's gonna be warming up again, but then it's allergy season and the rain starts. And then the fun thing about seasons is that that all repeats, and it's a constant cycle all year. So planning how to handle that weather is gonna be the #1 way to avoid this worst situation in Disney World. So how do you plan on it? How do you solve it? Well, one is gonna be having those must-haves in your bag. For example, I love to try, you guys, if you watch AllEars a lot, you know that we're not always successful in it, but having our rain gear makes a huge difference, especially in the summertime. So that way, when there's an Orlando thunderstorm from 3 to 5 p.m., you don't have to leave or hide out. You can just put on your rain gear and keep going. Another must-have is gonna be sunscreen. If you don't have your sunscreen with you in the park, you could be really missing out. Summer sunburns are absolutely brutal. They can ruin your trip if you get too sick and too sunburnt, so having that for constant reapplication is always gonna be helpful. Having a neck fan is a great way to kind of chill out and keep moving in the summertime. And then sometimes in the winter and the fall, I like to keep a sweatshirt in my bag, so that way I'm not spending money unless I want to on a really cool sweatshirt. Now, I am bad about not bringing a sweatshirt on purpose, so that way I can buy one in Disney World, which is great and fine and dandy, but if you're not that way, bring a sweatshirt. The seasons are constantly rotating, of course. That means our necessities are constantly rotating, and if you want any help, this is a great time to kind of check out AllEars Style. We talk about our necessities for each season, and we have lots of recommendations up on that Instagram if you want to check it out. Another way to solve that heat problem is go with the flow. If it gets rained out and it kind of changes your plans, that's okay. You just have to understand that that's kind of part of it. It's something that you're risking every single time, and don't worry, you're gonna be fine. Just because a ride is closed because of rain doesn't mean it won't open later that day. And then finally, another great solve for that terrible weather is take a midday break. Find a chair, find a table, sit down, relax. If you need to, even go back to your resort, have a nap. Especially in the summertime, the brutal temperatures can impact you in ways that you didn't already know. And plus, most of us are not used to walking 30,000 steps a day, so your body's really kind of shocked by all the things that are happening to it. So take a break. And also, if you want to know anything about how to have like a perfect morning or a perfect evening before your midday break or after your midday break, we have those videos up on the channel right now, which you can go check out. Speaking of perfect days though, if you want a little help with your planning your perfect day and you'd rather have it in writing than just watching the videos, we have all of those right here at this QR code. Each of the cast members have written out our way to have a perfect day, so there are tons of different options and they are all free. Scan this code right here and it'll take you directly to them. And again, all curated by us, so you have a lot of options there.
Next worst thing?
Yes.
I think this one is a common feeling. Frontierland. That's just the worst. Who likes the West? That's the question. It was violent, it was hot. I mean, why not Gardenland? Or maybe like some Pottery Land?
I love that. Or hear me out. Chipotle Land.
Chipotle?
Chipotle.
I love Chipotle.
I can't eat the stuff, but I approve of it. The ultimate question: how can I avoid the intense crowds in Disney World? Now, Disney crowds have been much harder to predict in the last few years due to random blockout dates, families needing to take more or less vacation than usual. The reasons go on, but there are a few crowd definites that we can offer. Now, those definite busy times are obviously going to be summer, school's out, kids are ready to play, parents need something to do with the kids, and they are obviously in Disney World is a great excuse. Spring break, again, school is out, kids are ready to play. Kind of an unexpected busy time is Christmas week and specifically New Year's Eve. People are obviously home from out of town or they're visiting family, kids are still out of school, and on top of that, there are new offerings that Disney is, doing the week of Christmas and New Year's Eve, and people want to experience that. Thanksgiving break, again, kids are out, kids want to play. However, Thanksgiving Day, always a toss-up. Sometimes people want to stay home on Thanksgiving. Sometimes people want to show up and play at Disney on Thanksgiving. That one's in the air, but definitely Thanksgiving week. Always during the opening of new attractions, shows, or festivals. I'm not sure if you can tell, but right now I am currently weaving and bobbing in this Magic Kingdom crowd. That's because right now, at the time of filming, annual pass holders are getting their previews for the new Tiana Bayou Adventure, which is the new, formerly Splash Mountain. And it is a very busy day. In fact, as of a couple weeks ago, Magic Kingdom, it was at capacity. Luckily, I already had my reservation for today, but Magic Kingdom was at capacity. So you might not get into the park you want, especially around when new attractions and shows are opening. And don't even get me started on those Epcot festivals. The opening of the festivals at Epcot are a huge day for us. One, because we're reviewing every booth to make sure we can get the video out on time. Make sure we can put the reviews up on AllEars.net. But that's also a huge day that we see a bunch of you guys, a bunch of the viewers. They come down and they're there for the opening day, and also just to say hi to us, which is awesome. And it's always great to connect and talk to you guys. But you guys know that it is a crazy busy day. All right, so how do we solve it? Well, one, you just do your best to avoid any of the times we just spoke about. Two, you can check your My Disney Experience app. If you are looking at park reservations, you're trying to make a park reservation and you see a green circle around the date that you're trying to go, that means the green circle means it's a good to go date. Good to go means that you don't need a resident for that date, and Disney is predicting that there's going to be lower capacity that day. Lower capacity means lower wait times, yeah. Really though, if you're coming to Disney World, you're gonna be in a huge crowd at one point or another. There's no way to avoid it. Everybody, people wanna be here. They pay lots of money to be here, so they're gonna wanna do everything, run around. But hopefully, if you're coming to Disney World, you can avoid the crowds as much as possible.
And the next worst thing at Disney World, you're always being watched. There are cameras everywhere. There are people everywhere. There are eyes constantly on you.
There's literally a character whose catchphrase is always watching.
Always watching.
Listen when people tell you who they are.
What are you watching? What are you watching?
Apparently us, but don't worry, there's a solve here.
There is.
Just close your eyes. If you can't see the cameras, they can't see you.
Uma, when you're right, you're right. Where'd you go?
Deborah.
Where'd you go?
Deborah, right here. Open your eyes.
Oh, there you are.
Exactly.
Kind of one of those worst problems. Now, this one's not going to impact everyone, but for those that it's bad for, overstimulation in Disney World can be a really bad problem. There's shows, rides, and even just sometimes like trying to walk through the crowds and exist. Leaving after the fireworks, all of that. It can kind of be really overstimulating, especially if this is something you've never experienced before, or if you're here during the summer for the first time. Now, I am really lucky. This is not something I typically struggle with on the daily, but the summertime in Disney World is something that I find myself being overstimulated kind of a lot in the summer times, especially leaving for fireworks. That is one of the most overwhelming experiences to me in Disney World, because there are thousands of people trying to do exactly what you're trying to do. However, all of that to be said, there are many ways to solve these problems. Now, the first way to solve these problems is to find a quiet place. And I know it doesn't feel like that exists in Disney World, but it does. For example, one of my favorites is right here in Frontierland. There is a separate dock that is not the main walkway that typically is not too busy. Especially if you're here during the parade, this is going to be a great way to walk around Disney without being in the crowds. And there's a lot of other spots where you can sit down and get out of the way. Places like the Storybook Circus tent, Center Street, behind the Galactic stage in Tomorrowland, Tom Sawyer Island, which Quincy and I are huge fans of, and even places like the shows like Hall of Presidents or Carousel of Progress. I also find myself on the People Mover a lot when I just need to sit down and get away from the crowds. Typically, People Mover does not have a long line, and it's not one of those rides where you might have to sit with other families. Even if you're solo, you get to sit by yourself in your little cart, and it's just a great ride to get away from the crowds. Another awesome way to kind of help cut down on overstimulation in Disney World is wear earplugs. I see this a lot with younger kiddos having the larger headphones, especially during fireworks or parades, but there are also earplugs that can help drown out the senses around you to help de-stimulate you a little bit. One of our incredible incredible riders. Her name is JP. She uses the loop earplugs, and there's different kinds of loop earplugs. I have not gotten to try them personally, but JP absolutely loves them and said they are a major help when she's at really loud events or here in Disney World to kind of help cut down on the noise around her so she can enjoy herself a little bit more. Those are really the two best ways to solve overstimulation when you're in Disney World, and also just knowing that that's something you're probably going to deal with. If you're sensitive to larger crowds, you're going to be in larger crowds in Disney World. That's no secret. Just kind of mentally preparing yourself and finding ways to calm yourself down, or just knowing when to step away is always going to be super, super helpful when you're here, no matter what time of year it is.
Now our next problem, it's a little bit more of a personal one. Deborah over here has a really large fear of elephants, and if you've ever been to Storybook Circus, you'd know they're kind of everywhere.
I could barely walk here.
It's true, she was petrified. I mean, they've got statues, there's some that are flying at you. It's just a lot, okay? But how do you solve that one?
I'll tell you how you solve it. Instead of statues of elephants, let's bring in statues of 70s and 80s pop icons.
All right, Donnie and Marie,
Yes, Neil Diamond.
bring them back.
It's not unusual. Who is that? No. Cheeseburger in. No, that's.
No, not
Wait a
quite.
minute. No, I got this.
Okay.
Wait a minute. There's Barry Manilow. Hold on, wait a minute. What song does he sing? At the Copacabana.
I like that.
She-
Would you think maybe the statues, like when you wave your magic bands, will sing at you?
Yes.
It'd be really nice.
Rides breaking down or shows canceling. Look, technology is never perfect, and rides and shows can and will fail from time to time. And even some of the most popular attractions are going to go down, and those are probably going to go down the most. I'm talking Rise the Resistance, one of the most technologically advanced rides currently here in Disney World. Because there's so many moving pieces and parts, the more likely it is to go down. Also, the newer the attraction, the more likely it is to go down. Yes, I'm looking at you, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So what happens when these rides or shows go down? If you're on the ride or if you're in the show, typically, if it's a quick fix, you might be paused for a moment, the show might pause for a moment, the ride might pause for a moment, and then it will resume at some point. But if it absolutely cannot be fixed, there is a chance where, unfortunately or fortunately, if this is something you're hoping happens on your trip, you could get evac from the ride, which means you will literally have to get out of your ride vehicle wherever you are in the ride and walk to the nearest exit. Same thing for the show. If a show there's a technical difficulty, the music stops and there's no way for it to go on, they might cancel the show in the middle of your experience and you have to leave. Now, what are the solves to this? First things first, again, you're going to look at your app. Yes, there's a lot of things happening on your phone in Disney World now. So if you're looking at the app, if you see a star over the attraction that you want to go to, typically that means the ride is down. I will say Disney does a pretty good job of doing a quick turnaround about getting that attraction back up. I'll say that for most rides. They're pretty good about turning it around and getting it back up. So check the My Disney Experience app, check looking for that star. Once that star turns back into a wait time, then you'll be good to go. Go ride it. Finally, if something happens, the ride goes down while you're in the middle of it and you don't see anything on your My Disney Experience app, you can talk to a nearest cast member, or you can talk to the guest experience team. Now, they will not be able to solve everything for you. For example, Rise has been down all day. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing they can do, my guy. But they are a great resource for questions if something happened to your lightning lane or your show or your ride and nothing was done. They might be able to help you. But please remember, be kind to all cast members. They are doing their best. They're dealing with a lot. Kindness will get you way further.
Now, another worst thing about Disney World is that there's just not enough humor. There's not enough
I've
laughter.
been saying that for years.
A little ha-ha, hoo-hoo. Yeah, so here is my solve. Because I want to be laughing nonstop. Nonstop.
Okay.
I want to show up and I want to immediately, ha! Okay? So here's what the solve is. Every single cast member, from the custodial team to the cooks to the train conductors, they're all going to be trained as Jungle Cruise skippers. It's a week intensive process, and they're going to be sent back to the jobs. Can you imagine the custodial team? Everyone, the fireworks are about to begin. Don't fall asleep.
You know what? You've already got me rolling.
Let's roll!
Next worst, unfortunately, being a first timer with no knowledge. But if you're here, hopefully that won't even be a problem for you. Visiting Disney World for the first time can be super, super exciting, but it also can be overwhelming. There's the pressure to get everything done, to do everything, but not really knowing how to do everything. It's a lot to handle. I come to Disney World almost every day now, but that has not always been the case. I've been coming to Disney World since I was young, and well before I was the planner, my mom was the planner. She had like the spreadsheet, she knew everything. So even when we came our first time, we felt really prepared because we had done our homework. Like, I was just a kid, I was excited to be there, but my mom knew, like down to the minute, what we were doing. But that's sometimes stressful for people to have that pressure that you want to do that and you have to be down to the minute. You don't have to be. I know that there are good experiences and there are bad experiences. I have had friends who came for their first time and felt really frustrated when they left because the lines were long, it was really hot, they didn't get to do everything they wanted to do, and it can be, again, overwhelming trying to do everything when it feels almost impossible. So there are going to be two solves with this one. The first one is kind of similar to our weather and the rest of them, and that's be flexible. Understand that it might not go exactly perfectly, but if you keep up with a good attitude and you keep a list of priorities rather than saying just everything, it's going to be a lot easier to do what you really, really care about rather than trying to maximize. The second solve is do your research, do all that homework. We're not asking you to go to college or anything, but just watch some videos, read from creators and content creators that you really like or you enjoy what they create. There are tons of different people all around Disney World that give constant recommendations, and finding people like AllEars who you really like and you trust our recommendations is going to make it a lot easier for you to narrow down what you actually care about rather than just trying to do every single thing in sight. Of course, I'm really partial. I think AllEars.net, we have tons of writers and reporters, and then all of us on screen, we make the mistakes, so hopefully you don't have to. We try the things so that way you know if it's worth your money or not, and we hope that that eventually leads to you being able to have the most perfect day ever. Again, I've already said it, check out the QR code if you want to check out our perfect days. It just makes it a little bit easier to take the stress off of you, so we're trying to plan and help you out there. My next major problem is everything is just so
so far.
Best example, the Beast's castle. That thing looks so small, like it's so far away. You know how I solved that one? Binoculars.
Ah.
Exactly. I think I should be allowed to see every little tiny crevice whenever I want all the time.
I like that, but that way we can also enjoy everything.
Exactly.
But from a distance.
Yeah, like I don't really want to be in the crowds, but I'd like to see Tinkerbell fly.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even want to be in the crowd. Maybe I just want to see the crowd. I'm here at Disney, just looking at crowds. Like you've never people watched before.
Too much walking. Woof. Okay, look, Disney World is its own city. It's literally the size of San Francisco, which means you'll be required to really move, especially if you're zigzagging all over the park and even park hopping. Now, I'm gonna do a quick check-in on my personal stats. Recently, we just did a mega week, which we filmed for 4 days, sun up to sundown, a bunch of videos. And we were park hopping, we were zigzagging.
Monday, almost 8 miles, almost 15,000 steps. See, Tuesday, 11 miles, 21,000 steps. Wednesday, almost 13 miles, 24,000 steps. Thursday, I mean, I could keep almost 10 miles, 19,000 steps. It's 10 miles. It's just absolutely wild.
So you definitely will be moving and grooving. And it's funny, the other day I even heard someone, like a husband, tell their wife on the phone, like, you didn't tell me I'd be walking this much. A lot of people are surprised at how much they actually have to walk here in Disney World. Now, what are the solves? First things first, this is kind of a dead giveaway, shoes. Well, I mean, yes, not just wearing shoes. Yes, please wear shoes. I mean, wearing good shoes. Me specifically, I have 2 sets of shoes that I alternate back and forth with, and they, I would say I go through, like, I have to change them out maybe every couple months because of the wear and tear and how much we walk. All of our reporters that work for AllEars.net, they all have a specific set of shoes that they feel works best for their feet, that they could not operate here in Disney World without it. But definitely find those shoes, find the shoes that you love, that feel absolute best, that you know after a long day when you kick them off, your feet aren't gonna just be insanely angry at you, that hopefully you can come back the next day and put on those shoes and go, you know what, I can do this again today. Now you will be walking, but Disney does have some great free transportation. That way you don't have to, you don't have to walk from, Hollywood Studios to Epcot, or from the Grand Floridian to Magic Kingdom. You can absolutely use Disney's free transportation. They've got a bunch of it. They've got boats, they've got buses, they've got a monorail, they've got a gondola, they've got a Skyliner, they've got ferries. They've got a lot. So definitely check to see if there's another way to get to your location that's not, making the rough trek. And if for some reason you just can't, they do have wheelchair rentals, they have ECV rentals, they have stroller rentals. So that option is available to you as well. One of the worst things about Disney World that I personally would like to solve is it's really hard to get into the action. Everything is like, wow, hey, let's interact, but how? How do I interact? Like Storybook Circus, like, hey, look, I'm a circus, but how can I interact with the circus?
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a singular thing. Or you think it's like a problem at large?
This is a huge problem.
Oh,
I was
okay.
talking to a family earlier, and they said, hey, I saw Jasmine, and that's crazy, what did you do? She said, I wanted to get involved, but I don't know how.
Well, what's the solve here?
The solve is karaoke pop-up bars.
Oh, Deborah.
Karaoke pop-up bars. I guarantee you, if that woman yesterday had a karaoke machine next to her, Jasmine would have walked over to her.
Yeah.
She would have known. She would have said, hey, that lady, she wants to be interacted with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really nice.
At first I was afraid. I was petrified.
And my final worst is feeling like there is just not enough time to do everything. I go to Disney World almost every day. We talk about that a lot, and there's still stuff that I've never done because there is so much to constantly do. Not only is Disney World constantly changing and updating and adding to the parks, but there's so much to do, it is honestly not possible to cram everything into just a few days. Again, don't worry though, we have the solve for that. I've said it once in this video, I've probably said it 100 times, but prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Again, we just talked about it. It's honestly hard to do everything, and having your priorities and knowing about the things that you care about means you're not going to spend an hour waiting on Peter Pan's flight when all you really care about is doing Space Mountain. It's not worth an hour if you don't care about those things. And when I say prioritize, I don't just mean rides like we just talked about, but sometimes I even mean food. If you hear us talk all day about Casey's corn dog nuggets and you think those kind of sound gross, don't go spend your money on them just because we say we love them. If you're not interested in those things, don't waste your time on them. It's up to you and your trip, and no one is gonna judge you just because maybe you don't like Mickey pretzels. Planning and prioritizing is great, and I think a necessity if you're trying to do what you care about in Disney World, but there is also that balance of learning to go with the flow and just relax. That's why I like to keep my priorities list a little bit smaller, because it's a lot easier to do 3 things that I really, really care about than 10 things I really, really care about. At the end of the day, it really matters what you want to do. Sometimes there can be pressure because you see people loving one thing or everyone has to do this kind of language online, but you know what? It's up to you. No one knows what you want to do more than you. So prioritize yourself, go with the flow a little bit, and just know that no one cares what your Disney vacation looks like but you, so you should do what you want.
Deborah.
The birds.
Deborah, we missed the show.
The birds.
We missed the show.
The show? The show. We gotta. The birds.
If you like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe.
Now go check out our video on our top 20 must-dos in Disney World.
See you there.
Bye.